Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy you're here. And I'm so happy about this topic that we're going to talk about today. We, as you guessed from the title, are going to talk about manifesting magic. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I am Stephanie Mosikowski. I'm a creative entrepreneur, intuitive empowerment mentor, and creative and transformational writer. I work with women and creative entrepreneurs and leaders who are really in that space of wanting to bring creativity and innovation into whatever it is that they're doing or whatever they're creating. And that can be just in personal life too, manifesting and creating, thriving, creating the things, manifesting the things that we actually want. And that is super exciting to be able to do that. And that process is so amazing. So that's part of why I'm doing these master classes, because it's, man, the creative process in manifesting is actually more simple than we make it many times. But it can be really challenging. And so it's helpful to kind of have some of that wisdom and information so that we kind of understand what that looks like. So when we get in these spots that are really challenging, we don't give up. We keep going, because I want you to manifest those things in your life. I want you to have and be able to create the things that you really want in your life, in your relationships, in your creative work, in your health, in your wealth, whatever it is that you're really wanting to manifest more of, which is really abundance. It's about creating abundance in our lives in the ways that are important to us and matter to us. And so I'm super excited to talk about this today. There was like a really intense energy behind this that I'm kind of noticing. It's also raining today, which is quite interesting for what we're going to talk about. So before we begin, because we are talking about manifesting, this is root wisdom. If we're talking energetically, this is the root chakra. But this is actually root wisdom. It's related to the element earth as an actual manifestation. Everything that is physically around us is manifested, right? So we're working with the earth element, which is also related to life force energy, sexual energy, and we're going to go through those things. So to begin, I really wanted to do some of those grounding practices that we always begin with, so we can really arrive in this space, this energetic container that we are creating together for the purpose of exploring manifestation. So let's go ahead and begin wherever you're at. Feet on the floor is always good, but whatever feels most comfortable for you or right for you. You can place your feet on the floor. I am actually sitting cross-legged today. You can place your hands at heart center, one on heart, one on womb, whichever feels okay for you. So we're going to begin to take some nice, deep, grounding breaths all the way into that belly space. Deep, it's connecting with right below into the root. So we're going to breathe in through the nose, and then we're going to hold for a moment and just exhale through the mouth with a really nice exhale. And take some of these that feel right for you, however many. We're actually going to take a couple of extra ones today, because the energy that's flowing through is really intense. So let's just go ahead and begin. So wherever you're at, just breathing in through the nose and then out through the mouth, however feels right for you. Kind of draw your attention as you breathe to the left side of that womb space, right below the navel, but kind of on the left. And as you're breathing in, go ahead and breathe into that space. We're going to breathe together. Bring in that nice, new, fresh energy breath. Notice anything that might be there, any tension, anything that feels heavy, anything that feels chaotic. Okay, we're ready. So as we go through, we'll connect a little to with the body, because like I said, I'm noticing there's some really intense energy today, and it doesn't matter actually when you're going to be watching this class. That's how energy works. I won't try to explain it, but it's just how it works. So there may be some things that come up that will actually resonate no matter when you're watching the video or the class. So, manifesting magic. Okay, this is such an amazing topic. And something that I haven't always actually even like concentrated on or really understood. But the more that I really work in creativity as a business owner, but also in working with other creatives, which I love, and creating the things in my own life that I really want, what has really connected and come through, especially in meditations, is it's manifestation. And sometimes we don't like that word because it floats around and it feels all weird sometimes. But that's really what it is. And it's actually good to pay attention to what's coming up to around the words manifesting. What do I desire? Noticing what comes up. Because that's the shadow working that we can kind of work through in the process too. And there's a lot of this that comes up, especially with creatives, artists, creative entrepreneurs, leaders, those, any of those who are dreamers, who kind of think and work and live outside the box, maybe not quite in alignment with the status quo or mainstream things. There's a lot of challenges in that because it's just outside the box. And there's usually a lot of opinions around us about what that means and what we should do and if it's right or if it's wrong. And so we really, it's really important to be able to connect back with ourselves, with our own wisdom, and knowing that we get to choose. You get to choose your life path. You get to choose your work, the sacred work that you offer into the world. You get to choose to cultivate the things that are really meaningful to you. You don't have to live someone else's life. You get to choose. And once we really get to absorb that, it's like, wow, that's like so amazing. So there's a couple of things that came through when I was meditating on this. So when we're talking about manifesting, again, we're going to come down to that root area, but we're really talking about, this is any type of creativity. So the first part of that is the seed. And most of you know that I work in earth-based traditions and earth wisdom, witchcraft and things like that. So my connections are always deeply like with the earth and nature, and I'm outside all the time. So a lot of this kind of relates back to nature and how we are actually a part of that. And the things that are manifest in the world with the earth, or however we may identify, are actually the same as the creative process. Whether that's creating things, just generally creating things in our life, or transformation, because creation is actually transformation. But because to create, things have to transform. There have to be changes that take place. So they actually kind of go together, whether we're talking about, internal transformations, healing, shadow working, all of those things. What we're really talking about is creation, because that is what it is. It's change, and creation is change. It's that flow, that flow of energy, which creates change, whether that's internally or externally or any of those things. And what is actually important is that, also to understand that for physical manifestation in the external world to take place, it begins with internal transformation, because we energetically have to align with what we're wanting to call in. Just like if you have watched any other classes or read my writings, this is there's a lot of energetics behind this. I'm not talking about mind stuff, like logic, strategy stuff. These are energetics. This is this is going deeper. This is the work that I do. I don't work in marketing and strategy and things like that. What I'm talking about is that deeper level, feminine, energetic perspective. Manifesting is, it's the art of feminine manifesting, and we're not just talking about gender. We're talking about the energy of manifesting, which is feminine energy wise, not necessarily gender. So, the other, other masculine path is kind of that more linear, way of doing things, and that's not wrong either for those who choose that, and kind of go a different route. But this is kind of a more easeful way of manifesting the things that we actually want. So when we're talking about manifesting, the first part of that is going to be the seed, right? The seed. So hopefully, if you grab a journal, because there will be things that come up. If you feel like you want to grab a journal, grab a journal. I always kind of like write things and allow things to flow through. So the first part of this is the seed, just like in all of creation, right? It's the seed of potential. The seed of potential. So this is like, and we all are, when we're talking about creation or manifesting, we're all kind of governed by this. It's the seed of potential. There's infinite potential for creation. And these seeds that we're planting are really, what we are hoping will come to fruition at some point. So the first amazing magical part of that is understanding that little seed holds all of the potential that it needs to become fully manifest. Think about nature, or, an acorn. I use this example because I have a beautiful tree that I really connect with, in a lot of ways. An acorn, this little teeny acorn has everything that it needs to become this amazing oak. Lex, baby, stop. My dog. There's a process to it, and it takes time. This is the creative process, the creative genius in aligning with nature and natural processes. But she's like, doing what dogs do, how they find their little space. Lexi, baby. So there is a process. When we're aligning with manifesting, we also have to understand that we can relax into this process. One, we can't actually force it, even if we wanted to. We can't control this natural process if we are aligning with this feminine way to attract and manifest. So just like that acorn, there's a process for it to become an oak. the creative process, what you're wanting to manifest. You as a human being, you also have a process. You grow at your own pace. Your creative projects will grow at their own pace. And that doesn't mean that we just step away and like relax and let it, whatever happens, happens, because that's not it either. But it's an easeful way of being with the process, understanding that everything that is going to need to happen, it will happen. So that seed of potential, this is going to be that it's the light of awareness. So it's those revelations, those insights that come through, and those insights are going to happen on their own for the most part. They're really going to happen the most when we are relaxed. It's that relaxed, balanced state of being where we allow a space for these insights to flow in. This is where those seeds come from when we're working creatively or in our own lives and things like that. So sitting, I get most of my ideas, my insights, my visions, wisdom, or things that channel into me when I'm really in a deep space of stillness and silence. Because that's when we connect with that inner, expansive, inner self, which is connected to all things. It is the energy of creation and creativity. And so when we sit in that, we begin to ask those questions, and then things come through. It's kind of like that learning and discovery, but however you may identify that you connect with that, if that's the universe or source or God or higher self or a goddess or some type of deity or guide, however you might connect with that, it's really, it's that muse. It's the muse that flows in, and the things that flow through end up being much better than our preconceived notions of, because our mind kind of gets in the way of that creative process sometimes. So if you are, in those spaces, that's where the seed will come through, that revelation, that insight, that inspiration, that idea, that big vision or dream. And sometimes when we feel creatively blocked, or we're just really struggling to figure out how to move forward, what we really need to do is create those spaces. Create the spaces for those things to come through. Because this is where part of that conditioning is going to come up. Because we are conditioned to just go, 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 go. And work hard and think a lot. And, and, if I just sit down and I figure out all the details, and that's, what it's about. But the more easeful way is actually to relax in and to allow the beauty of your inquiry, your discovery, your curiosity, to allow that to come through. So maybe the question is, Lexi baby, man, her and these eating up the feet. So maybe this is about kind of like an inquiry. So, so when we're wanting to manifest something, it begins with that question. What do I desire? We talk about this. I talk about this a lot. If you've watched any of the other lessons or writings and things like that, what do I desire? And then think about it. And there's always going to be senses connected to this. We can have an idea Like maybe it's a simple inquiry of, hey, I really want to create this new thing in my business. I wonder how I can do that. And kind of listening for those answers. But there's going to be an internal sensing that comes from actually connecting with the feeling. Because it's about how we want to feel. Because we don't just create things just to create them. I mean, it's a feeling that we're wanting to connect with. And this is where feelings are very important, because we may think, oh, well, I want this thing, but what is it that we're actually wanting to feel? Do we want to feel more confident? Do we want the freedom of choice? Do we want the responsibility of creating the things that we really desire? And so connecting what that feeling feels like. What does that desire feel like? And that's where we allow the answers to come through. So there is where those seeds of potential are revealed. And then once we have that seed, what do we do with it? We sit with it. And this is where the intention comes in. Because once we have that seed of potential, what do you got to do with the seed? You need to plant it somewhere. You need to plant it in nurturing, fertile soil. Our intention has to be planted. And think about this the same way you would think with, in nature, in a garden. When we have the seed, it's saying, okay, I have this thing that I'd really like to grow, to bring to fruition, to its fullest potential, to manifestation. So this is kind of where the second part of that comes in. That first part is the seed, having that seed of potential. And this becomes our intention. We say, okay, well, I have this idea, so my intention is to bring it to fruition, right? So then what we really need to do, excuse me, the whole animal thing. My animals are always around me. I love them. They create a little background chaos, which is okay for me. So when we now have this intention that we're wanting to bring to fruition. So we got to plant it in those fertile, nurturing soils, because nothing can grow on barren soil, right? So within this part of the process, this phase of the creative process and manifesting magic, what we're doing is we're going to plant that, and we need to nurture it. Think about, you don't just plant a seed and then it just the next day becomes the thing, right? We have to nurture it. We have to allow it the process of growth. And each thing takes its own time to grow, has its own process. And there's no right or wrong in this. We have to become really comfortable with not trying to control. Because that's actually a shadow that will come up too, which is really fueled by fear. Because when we try to control things, and man, I have to catch myself doing this all the time. And don't beat yourself up if you do this. I've learned not to. It's just more of awareness of I see where I'm trying to control this thing. Because it's really fueled by fear. Because when we're trying to push something and make it become something before it's ready, what is behind that is that we are afraid that it's not going to happen, and kind of maybe some doubt that this can actually happen, doubt, am I really supported by this creative energy of the universe? Can I trust myself? Can I have faith in this process? And that it takes a lot of learning. And I don't think that we ever like don't experience that challenge again, because it will come up. It comes up for me. We're all, get caught up in that thinking, because that's what it really is. So within this process of of nurturing this seed, nurturing this intention, there's a big shadow that comes up with this control of overthinking. This is where we get stuck in analysis paralysis. So where this is, and then again, the creative process comes from the heart. It comes from that deeper, lower chakra stuff, if we're talking energetics, but it's that desire to create. It's the creative energy, the feminine energy. And within this process, a shadow that's going to come up is where we're going to get caught up in the mind. And mind and logic have a place in the process, but what happens is sometimes that we kind of get paralyzed by like overthinking and feeling like we have to have all the details. We have to know how it's going to work out. And that's not really the creative process. Things will flow through as they need to flow through, and learning to live creatively, learning to manifest instead of force, learning the feminine art of manifestation is really a lot about balance. So instead of forcing, pushing, controlling, like always acting, there's a balance that has to happen of both of those things. So it's surrendering and acting, discipline and letting go, structure, free flow. There's a balance. There's a balance within this second part of that. It's really throughout the whole process, but when we're trying to nurture an idea into fruition or nurture something in our lives, whatever it is that we're wanting to create, we when we have that intention to create this thing, we kind of have to set that intention. We're focused on the intention, but surrendering exactly how it's going to work out or every detail, and asking the questions. What does this idea, intention, need to grow? How does it need to be nurtured? How can I support this process? And it's the intention and also ourselves within the process, because our intentions, what we're wanting to create, what we're planting, they are extensions of ourselves. Just like if you were growing a physical baby, that's an extension of yourself. Our creative processes, our creative projects, our creative endeavors, our art, whatever we're creating in our life, they're just like pregnancy. The principle is the same. And so when we're gestating, when we're nurturing this thing that will at some point come into the existence of the earth, the world, we have to figure out, what does it need to grow? And this includes ourselves. So if I'm growing this thing, this intention, this seed, how do I nurture it and how do I nurture myself? Because this is an extension of my heart's desire my passions, my dreams. We have to begin to look at it like that. So, because within this process, it makes it much more difficult to create these things. And sometimes I don't think we always connect with this, that, we can be really hard on ourselves, especially in creators, creatives, um, innovators, dreamers. There's something that always comes up that can be really challenging, and that is perfectionism, and criticism of ourselves, and maybe even the process. And what's really important is that letting go of the idea of perfection. You are not going to be perfect. The bringing this idea into form may look a little different than you imagined. It's not going to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be. Art is not perfect. Creation is not perfect. There is no perfection. That's what makes it beautiful, because it's unique, and it has its own vibe and its own energy, and it's wonderful. And it doesn't need to be perfect. And there's a process. So we live in this culture and society where we're demanding perfection, and we want instant gratification and things like that. And that's really supported in our world when it comes to the creative process. We have to really honor that process, commit to the process of bringing this creation into fruition. And that's gonna come up. Criticism of the work, criticism of ourselves, criticism of the process. And a lot of times that criticism may also come from the outside world around us. Even people around us who may actually love us, but maybe they're afraid. They don't really understand, because it's not their vision, it's not their dream, it's not their creation. And maybe they're afraid and are critical and things like that. And that can be really damaging too. So we have to learn how to navigate and support ourselves through that process. Maybe we have people around us who are really supportive. And if you do, man, love those people, because they are immensely important. And that has more value, I think, than we sometimes recognize. Those supportive influences in our lives that are like, man, I believe you can do this. Maybe they don't understand, but they're still really encouraging and supportive. And man, that's awesome. It's awesome to have that. And it's amazing if we can give that to others too. We to be able to offer encouragement. And especially if you are a creative person, or a dreamer, or just, doing things a little bit differently, you begin to understand and become aware of how difficult that can be sometimes in our world. And with that understanding, when you see someone else who maybe is kind of a challenge, you can offer that support to them, because you'll know how challenging it is. So within, what I'm saying is, if you have those supportive things, then that's absolutely wonderful. But the most important part of that is to actually begin to learn how to self-source. Nourishment, nurturing. This is self-mothering, self-love. To be able to begin to self-source that into our life and our creations, and notice when we're being really critical of ourselves, even maybe. Man, we all struggle with this, but creatives, artists, entrepreneurs, people who think outside the box, there's this big struggle with wanting to nurture creativity. Is like, is it good enough? Do I really have something to offer? And I work with a lot of creatives and artists and things like that. This this is consistent. It's going to come up. And it has also, it has also come up for me many times. And friends who are close to me, the few that really, I've shared some of those things with, they know that this comes up. When we're really excited about this thing, and then there's like that self-doubt that like kind of creeps in. And then we're like, wait, really? Like, is it good enough? Does it really have value? And just understand that that's part of it. And when those things come up, that's part of that nurturing of that thing that you're bringing into fruition, is to notice where those things come up and be like, it's really about flipping our focus, flip our focus. Because when we start to have those, it's kind of like self-doubt, fear, criticism, internally or otherwise, we have to flip that energy, because it's all energy. And the frequency that we are creating is what's going to attract, manifest, draw things to us. So flipping it. Well, yes, of course your work is good enough. You are good enough. Of course, the gifts that you have to offer into the world are good enough. You don't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect. The work doesn't have to be perfect. To recognize that you are lovable and you're beautiful and you have things to offer into the world that are unique to you, and you get to create those things, and they will have value to someone else, because whatever it is that you're trying to create or manifest, especially when this comes down to creative work or anything you're creating, there's someone else in the world who will be like, oh, that's exactly the thing I was looking for, or man, that was really helpful, or this helped to support me in some way. And to be able to flip those kind of, because that's where the belief systems come in. I talk really 3 areas when it comes to creativity. It's the energy, it's the internal belief systems, and kind of the aligned actions. And the emotions that go along with those things that are really important. Because understanding that those thoughts that are coming up, those beliefs, is it good enough? That's fear. It's fear coming in. And it's okay if it's there. We don't have to like be afraid of fear. Those are shadows that come up, and it's okay to just be like, okay, well, I have these probably internal conversations with myself with fear and shadows. And you guys know that I do a lot of shadow working. It's a large part of what I do in the energetic work that I do within my own life, with the mentoring and coaching that I do, and in my own expressive writings, is working through a lot of those shadows. And it's actually really beautiful when we learn to kind of work with them, because there will be shadows that will come up over time, and kind of learning to be with those, not like try to push them away or deny them, but be like, okay, you start having these conversations with your shadows. It's actually, I don't know, I like it sometimes. Or like, okay, fear, I see you. Not really needed right now. So what am I going to choose to like step into right now? How am I going to shift this fear vibration? Because fear is it's going to push things away. So how do I flip this fear? Well, that's kind of an old coping mechanism. Fear is, it's trying to protect you. It's not, that energy of fear is trying to protect you from something. Because when we're creating something new, it's change. And change feels a little bit scary. Because patterns are really easy. The familiar is easy. Creativity is change. And then so that fear comes up because it's like, hey, this doesn't feel safe. This doesn't feel familiar. And that's a survival response, which is also held in the root, which is where manifestation takes place. So it's about working with this energy and saying, okay, fear, I see you. I see you're trying to protect me, but not necessary. I got this. I am supported. I have something of value to offer. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to be perfect, but it's important. I'm passionate about it. It's my dream. It's my vision. Whatever it is you're creating, it is important. It's there for a reason. Your desires, your heart intentions, those heart desires, they're there for a reason because they are meant for you. And fear can really block us. It can block us in that creative process. So we kind of learn to work through that as we're going through that and asking, okay, well, I see you, fear. So how can I nurture myself right now? Because what that is, it's like an inner child thing. It's an inner child thing that's coming through. That's saying like this doesn't feel safe. So it's almost learning to nurture and connect with ourselves the way that we would a small child. Well, of course it's going to be okay. I mean, you have beautiful things to offer. You can do this. This is what you desire, and it's worthy. It's worthy of time. It's worthy of energy. It's worthy of effort. And have these internal conversations, whether these are through affirmations or little conversations that we have with ourselves, the awareness and being able to slow down enough to notice when these things are coming up so that we can then flip it. And this isn't like bypassing. We don't want to bypass because, again, you guys know, we're going to take a minute to breathe in, to breathe into that womb space. Take a few breaths here. Take a moment to notice the body. Anything that's going on there, any place that there's like a specific feeling or sensation that you're drawn to. Especially in the sacral area, it's that womb space right below the belly button, and then down into the root, and kind of notice kind of what's going on there right now, and kind of breathe into that space. Okay. So, again, that inner child. It's learning to nurture and mother ourselves, our creations, knowing that we are also supported, loved, and protected, nurtured by the energy of creation, by the universal source, the great mother, who births all things, the earth. And beginning to kind of nurture those things. So within that nurturing is also that space where we balance the discipline in letting go, the surrender and the action. So it's surrendering and then being like, okay, it's that curious discovery. We're on a journey. Well, what do I need to grow this intention? What do I need to grow this project? How can I nurture it? And asking these questions, and then we're going to look for those synchronicities. We're going to look for those internal insights, that wisdom, learning to trust ourselves and our own creative process. This is about our own internal rhythms as abundant creative beings. That we have the answers. We have it within us. We are supported if we connect to guides or the universe or higher self, however you may identify. We have those things within us. And learning to trust that process and the internal rhythms that will flow. So kind of waiting, and then when the next step reveals itself, or that inspired action, that synchronicity that we're looking for in the world to support that question that we were asking, or whatever, next step might be necessary. My collie cat just jumped up here. She's helping with the process. I'll introduce you. Say hello, baby collie cats. So, oh my God, she's like so good laying in my lap. I love it. So within that process, and these like flow into each other during the process of creation. So this is like the spiral of creation. It's not linear. So they flow into each other. It's not like a step 1, step 2, step 3. There are like phases, just like there are phases in the gestation of a baby, right? And they lead to the manifestation of creative life, whether that is a human child or a creative project or whatever you're wanting to create in your life. So within this is going to begin to flow, and we take one step at a time. It's just about taking the steps, because that brings us forward on the spiral path. Cat hair. Great. It's the spiral path, and as we just take these small steps as we're led and guided to, it moves us forward. And what we're doing when we're taking these steps, we are simultaneously being supported by the universe as we're taking steps with this process. And our focus is on it. We have that focused intention. We begin to embody that energy of that thing we're wanting to create. And then we begin to draw and attract that support. Maybe it's a little ways away right now, and that's okay. But always knowing and trusting that we are drawing it in. It's like we're drawing to each other, right? Law of attraction, really. What we are desiring to bring to fruition is also wanting us. It's developing a relationship and an affinity to what you're wanting to create and bring into fruition, and nurturing it like it is a relationship, like, oh, I love you so much. And you can actually say that to your like endeavors, but understanding how that process kind of works. As we take a step, the universe, creative energy, source, what we're wanting to bring in is also moving closer to us. And that could be, anything. It could be ideas, it could be resources, it could be mentors or coaches or some support that maybe might help with some certain types of information or what you're needing. Could be clients, it could be all kinds of different things, but you're kind of drawing that in as you ask these questions. So we have to be alert to those opportunities. The opportunities, the information that the universe, life, everyday, ordinary life is like, it becomes our oracle. We're asking these questions, and then we'll receive what we need to complete this creative process. So we got to connect with it and begin to connect with that feeling, the feeling part. Man, how will I feel? How will I feel, when this thing comes to fruition? That's the envisioning part. And it's drawing it to you by that feeling. How will I feel? I'll feel confident. Feel amazing that I at least tried, like I was bold enough. I had enough courage to try. I didn't let fear, stop me. I didn't let fear hold me back. And thinking about how amazing it will be when whatever it is that you're wanting to manifest happens. Connecting with that, whatever that is uniquely for you. And sometimes this is quite a process. and I work through this. I work through this with clients specifically because sometimes um, it takes practice to learn how to connect in this way because we're so conditioned in our society to be like driven by the mind and thought that that we always like habitually kind of return to this way of being. It's completely natural. We all do it. Um, so it's actually learning. There's a process of learning of how to really connect with the senses. That's the body. That's feeling. That's it's not mind stuff. That's not like thinking about um like the steps to get there or the details. It's about feel. Man, how would I feel? What would it be like? And feeling into what that is. And that actually takes a bit of practice, and it's okay if it feels like weird and unfamiliar at first. So, nurturing, and we're preparing. What are we preparing to birth? And to it's almost like sitting in anticipation, like, oh, I can't wait. It's like, I'm sure how, many mothers might feel when they're like in the last trimester of birth. They're like, oh, I can't wait for this baby to be here. And they're imagining what it will be like and how they'll feel. And think of it like that. How will it feel? Positive and optimistic anticipation. What would it be like if I had, all these clients that I really wanted to work with? What would it be like if this project really flourished? What would it be like if I was able to create this relationship that is really nourishing and beautiful? Whatever it is that we're trying to manifest. And anticipation that it is going to happen. So there, again, fear, self-doubt, those things will rise up. But we need to return to that space. Like, of course it's going to happen. The anticipation. When it happens, maybe we don't know exactly when. Maybe we don't know exactly how. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's returning to that space. Man, I can't wait. I can't wait. And still being here in this present moment and what we, enjoying the life that we have right now, the creative process, because this is actually, the journey is really important. And it's, those small steps, those small victories that make it so worthwhile. So, not being like consumed by the future focus, but kind of being in the present and enjoying what is right now, and also anticipating, man, this is, like this part of it is neat. Because creativity to me is like, I just love it. I love the process, even though it can be really, really challenging in a lot of areas. But it's that anticipation. Well, of course it's going to happen. And to begin to have these conversations with ourselves and our baby, whatever that might be, that is going to be birthed, right? Whatever it is that is from that seed. Whatever seed you planted, whatever it's meant to become. So, when we align, and then we're anticipation. And the funniest thing is, boom, it blooms. It blooms. And it manifests. Maybe sometimes it looks a little different than what you had first imagined. Maybe it took a little longer. Maybe it was quite quicker than you thought. Or whatever it might be, because it also depends. If you're wanting to grow an immense, enormous oak, understand the process is going to take a little more time. And that's okay. But enjoy all those beautiful growth steps in the middle. If you're, wanting to birth something that is maybe not the great oak, maybe it's like a beautiful wildflower. So that one's going to take less time. So just understanding that, and then boom, bloom, manifestation. So I hope you got some useful things from this. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, please go visit my page, empoweredroots.com, and you can use the contact tab to contact me, email me, comment, ask questions, or you could also go over to my Facebook page and join us there. There's lots of ways to connect. You can also explore the writings and classes and services and things like that on the website. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you later.